What a beautiful day, huh? Well, just to give you a brief background on myself, I've got 25 years in the operating engineers. I've got 10,000 hours in backhoes and bulldozers and scrapers. And about 5 years ago, I thought to myself, like you, I woke up one day worried about my country, worried about my family, worried about my children, worried about upstate New York that I've made a great living in and done well, wondering if it would continue as I knew it. And I know today, standing before you, if we don't act, and we don't act quickly, we're going to lose the country that we grew up in. So I entered a race in 2008. I had the closest congressional race in the United States out of 223 races. It's in Time magazine as one of the top 10 races, one of the top races to be the next Scott Brown type race. And with your help, I could do that. I wasn't taught, thank you. I was raised simply. I wasn't taught that the purpose of life was to be happy. I was taught the purpose of life was to be useful, compassionate, to accept responsibilities, to stand for something, and most of all, to be accountable and accept consequences. I'm here to tell you, if we don't act responsibly and with urgency, we risk being the last generation to know the full promise of upstate New York and this country. We're fostering a political system that spends most of its effort at war with itself, ignoring its responsibilities to its citizens and to the future. Politicians seem content to engage in an endless conflict of extremes. Politics is our primary means for solving our problems, but has shown little capacity to do that. Just as sure as government has become an increasingly larger part of our lives and our economy, government has also gained a corresponding capacity to produce damaging outcomes, and we see it every day. This nation was built by people like you and I, fiercely independent, self-reliant entrepreneurs, men and women who sought out opportunity and embraced risk. It's being dismantled by bureaucrats and politicians who do not view themselves as elements of a productive economy, but people whose job it is to create obstacles to the very productive process which has allowed this nation and its citizens to enjoy the highest standard of living in the history of the world. There's a natural incentive for governments to kick all problems down the road. As a society, we have chosen to avoid consequences and incur an amount of debt that has the potential to hurt our economy so severely that we may experience a lost decade similar to Japan's. This passing forward of crisis and debt, in my view, amounts to the criminal neglect of the next generation, and in New York State is the reason why most of us here today, like me, do not expect their children to make their lives here. Everywhere we look, governments are running enormous deficits. Over the next 10 years, the United States is projected to have a $12 to $14 trillion deficit. Over 40% of this spending may have to be borrowed. As of today, everyone here owes over $200,000 in unfunded future debt. We are living through one of the greatest financial crises since the Great Depression. But it's not like our father's recession. While this recession is somewhat muted by an elaborate safety network of unemployment benefits, deposit insurance, welfare, and socialized health care, this recession has the potential to last longer and prove more difficult to get out of. There are a few broad reasons why we may be mired down for a while. They all have to do with our ability to grow our economy and compete as individuals and as a nation. The educational neglect of our youth, as it is emphasized in the home and in society, is a national disgrace. Education and innovation have made this country great. Its neglect will be the primary cause of our own undoing. I believe we are at a tipping point in this country, and we are deluding ourselves if we believe that we are somehow destined or entitled to a higher standard of living than the rest of the world. We must make better choices and aggressively prepare our children to compete in the new global economy. We cannot tax our way into prosperity, and government spending is no free lunch. All credible studies show that there is no multiplier effect to government spending. Government spending is a drain on real consumption and investment. Our money is best left in our hands. Government is not entitled to your money just because their costs go up. High taxes reduce growth. Slow growth destroys opportunity and makes even higher taxes inevitable. High taxes pressure all aspects of society. New York State and California are not victims of the current recession as they've had you believe. Their fate has simply been fast-forwarded to the inevitable outcome of badly managed and bloated states. Today, the basic national conversation between Democrats and Republicans has become all too predictable. Democrats want more spending with bigger programs. Republicans want tax cuts and more tax cuts. We will never be able to spend enough for the Democrats or cut enough taxes for Republicans. The truth is, we have been spending too much for too long. We cannot spend more and cut taxes without cutting spending, or we are simply feeding the beast that is killing us. We are in the process of bankrupting our country and losing our standing in the world. It is time that we act like adults, get our spending under control, and work seriously on all those things that grow general prosperity through the private economy. After all, small business produces 80% of all new jobs, and consumers produce 70% of our economy. The Obama administration has said they will not raise taxes on those making over $250,000. That's a lie. Cap and trade will cost each American household at least $1,700 per year. And health care reform will cost $4,000 per family per year when fully implemented. We are being misled. We simply cannot bleed the rich enough to avoid increases in taxes on all of us. The U.S. job market is the worst in 70 years. Depending on who you count and who's doing the counting, unemployment is between 10 and 17%. Without jobs, there can be no recovery. The lack of opportunity for employment is a national emergency and should be our country's highest priority, and it's been ignored. The $800 billion stimulus package has not met the challenge it was intended. Economists agree the fastest and most efficient way to grow jobs is through infrastructure projects, but less than 12% of this stimulus package is spent on roads and bridges and sewer and water and all those things that everyone agrees create jobs the fastest. Those jobs that once supported our workers, the auto industry, homes, and commercial construction, have for the foreseeable future dried up. Without jobs, consumers can't spend. Without business spending, without spending, businesses don't need to hire, regardless of the jobs tax incentives that you hear lauded and talked about so much. I never hired anybody, and I've had over 450 employees because the government gave me $2,000 to $5,000 to do it. It just doesn't work that way. The most depressing possibility...
Get the way tax doesn't make sense to pay somebody to hire somebody.
Bingo. The most depressing possibility is that growth, investment,